Have you ever heard of Agur? If you've spent some time in the book of Proverbs, his name might sound a little familiar. But who was he? Well, that's one of the great mysteries of the Bible. Agur is the author of Proverbs chapter 30, and his name literally means collector or gatherer in Hebrew. Some scholars think Agur might have been a king or a prince, maybe even from a non-Israelite nation, because his writing style is a bit different from the rest of Proverbs. Others suggest Agur isn't a personal name at all, but a symbolic title for Solomon, who was known for gathering wisdom. The text itself describes him as Agur, son of Jakeh, and his words as an inspired utterance. This introduction sets his teachings apart, signaling that we're about to hear something special, and his words truly are profound. Agur starts with a powerful declaration of his own limitations and humility before God. He asks, "Who has gone up to heaven and come down? Whose hands have gathered up the wind? Who has wrapped up the waters in a cloak? Who has established all the ends of the earth? What is his name, and what is the name of his son?" Surely you know. This series of questions beautifully emphasizes God's infinite power and wisdom, contrasting it with human frailty. Agur's most famous prayer is a model of contentment and dependence on God. He asks for two things: keep falsehood and lies far from me, give me neither poverty nor riches, but give me only my daily bread. He wisely explains the dangers of both extremes. If he's too rich, he might disown God, and if he's too poor, he might steal and dishonor God's name. This prayer teaches us to seek a balanced life, trusting God for our daily needs rather than chasing worldly wealth. The rest of his chapter is filled with fascinating numerical sayings, listing things like for things that are never satisfied, or for things that are small on the earth but are extremely wise, like the ant. These observations about nature and human behavior are packed with practical wisdom. Agur was clearly a keen observer of the world around him, drawing spiritual lessons from everyday life. Though we don't know much about the man himself, his collected wisdom remains a timeless and treasured part of Scripture, encouraging us toward humility, contentment, and a deeper reverence for God. Thank you for watching. We hope you learned something new today. Join us next time as we explore the keyword Ahab in the Bible. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more. Have you ever wondered about some of the most infamous characters in the Bible? Today, we're diving into the story of one of them, King Ahab. Let's explore the keyword Ahab and what his story can teach us. Ahab was the seventh king of Israel, and the Bible, particularly in the book of 1 Kings, doesn't paint a very flattering picture of him. The text says he did more evil in the sight of the Lord than all who were before him. That's a pretty strong statement. So, what did he do to earn such a reputation? Well, a big part of it was his marriage to Jezebel, a Phoenician princess. Their union wasn't just a political alliance, it brought the widespread worship of a foreign god, Baal, into Israel. Ahab built a temple and an altar for Baal right in the capital city, Samaria. This was a direct violation of the first commandment to worship God alone. It led the nation away from their covenant and into idolatry on a massive scale. This is where the prophet Elijah comes into the picture. Elijah was God's messenger, and he directly confronted Ahab's wickedness. Remember the famous showdown on Mount Carmel? That was Elijah challenging the 450 prophets of Baal, sponsored by Ahab and Jezebel, to see whose God was real. It was a dramatic moment where God showed his power with fire from heaven, proving he was the one true God. Despite witnessing this incredible miracle, Ahab's heart remained hard. He continued to follow Jezebel's lead and made one bad choice after another. One of the most telling stories is about Naboth's vineyard. Ahab coveted a vineyard that belonged to a man named Naboth, which was right next to the palace. When Naboth refused to sell his ancestral land, Jezebel arranged for him to be falsely accused and executed so Ahab could take it. This act of injustice and greed was the final straw. Elijah confronted Ahab again, delivering a harsh prophecy of doom for him and his entire family line. And just as Elijah prophesied, Ahab eventually met a tragic end in battle. His story serves as a powerful cautionary tale about the dangers of compromising faith, the influence of ungodly counsel, and the severe consequences of turning away from God. King Ahab's life shows us a clear picture of what happens when a leader leads his people astray. His name has become synonymous with wickedness and idolatry, but it is also a story that highlights God as patience and his persistent call to repentance through prophets like Elijah. It reminds us of the importance of staying true to our convictions and the serious impact our choices have, not just on ourselves, but on everyone around us. Thanks for exploring this keyword with us today. Join us next time as we look into the keyword Ahava in the Bible. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into biblical stories. See you then. Hey everyone, and welcome back to our series on keywords in the Bible. Have you ever thought about the word love? We use it all the time, right? I love pizza, I love my family, I love that new song. But in the Bible, love is so much more than just a feeling. It's a deep, powerful concept, and to truly get it, we need to look at the original language. Today, we're diving into the Hebrew word ahava. This is one of the most common words for love in the Old Testament, and it's packed with meaning. Ahava isn't just a passive emotion, it's active. It's about choice, commitment, and action. It describes a deep affection and loyalty. The kind of love that God has for his people. Think about Deuteronomy 6-5, which says, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your might." The word used there for love is ahava. It's a call to a total, all-encompassing devotion. Not just a warm, fuzzy feeling. It's a love that shows itself through obedience and faithfulness. Ahava is also used to describe the love between people. It's the loyal love between friends, like David and Jonathan, and the deep, committed love within a family. For example, in Genesis, it describes Isaac's love for Rebekah. So, it covers both our relationship with God and our relationships with each other. It's a love that chooses to care, to protect, and to be present, no matter what. So, when you see the word love in the Old Testament, remember ahava. It's not just a feeling, it's a decision. It's a commitment to act in a caring and loyal way. It challenges us to think about how we express our love for God and for the people around us. Is it an active, committed ahava love? Something to think about, right? Thanks for joining me today to explore this incredible word. I hope it gives you a richer understanding as you read the scriptures. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss our next video. We'll see you next time as we explore the keyword Ahaz in the Bible. Have you ever heard of King Ahaz of Judah? He's one of the most notorious kings in the Bible, and his story is a powerful lesson in faith, fear, and the consequences of our choices. Let's dive into the life of Ahaz today. Ahaz became king of Judah when he was just 20 years old. His reign, described into Kings chapter 16 and to Chronicles chapter 28, was marked by a deep departure from the faith of his ancestor, King David. Instead of trusting in God, Ahaz turned to the idols and practices of the surrounding nations. He even went so far as to sacrifice his own son in the fire, following the detestable ways of the nations God had driven out before the Israelites. His troubles really began when two powerful kings, Rezin of Aram and Pekah of Israel, formed an alliance to attack Jerusalem. Ahaz was terrified. The Bible says his heart and the hearts of his people were shaken. Like trees of the forest shaken by the wind, this was his moment of truth. God sent the prophet Isaiah to Ahaz with a message of hope. Isaiah told him, "Be careful, keep calm and don't be afraid. Do not lose heart." God promised that the plans of these two kings would not succeed and that their kingdoms would soon be destroyed. God even offered Ahaz a sign, anything he wanted, to prove his promise. But Ahaz, in a show of false piety, refused. He said, "I will not ask, I will not put the Lord to the test." But his refusal wasn't about respecting God, it was about his lack of faith. He had already decided to look for help elsewhere. So, Isaiah delivered the famous prophecy of Immanuel, meaning God with us, as a sign for the whole house of David, foretelling a future hope even when their king had failed. Ignoring God's promise of protection, Ahaz turned to the mighty king of Assyria, Tiglath-Pileser. He stripped the temple and the royal palace of their treasures and sent them as a gift, saying, "I am your servant and your vassal." While the Assyrians did defeat his enemies, this alliance came at a terrible cost. Judah became a puppet state of Assyria, and Ahaz sank even deeper into idolatry, even setting up a pagan altar in the temple of the Lord. Ahaz's story is a tragic example of what happens when we let fear drive us away from God, instead of trusting in the one who promised to protect him. He chose a path that led to spiritual decay and national decline. His legacy is a stark reminder to place our trust firmly in God, especially when we are afraid. Thanks for watching. Join us next time as we explore the story of his descendant, Ahaziah, right here. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you won't miss it. See you then. Hello and welcome back to our Bible Keyword series. Today, we're diving into the story of a king whose reign was short but packed with important lessons, Ahaziah, king of Israel. Now, it's easy to get confused because there's another king Ahaziah in the Bible, the king of Judah. We'll talk about him in another video, but today, our focus is solely on Ahaziah of Israel, the son of the infamous King Ahab and Queen Jezebel. Ahaziah's story is found in the final chapter of 1 Kings and the beginning of 2 Kings. He inherited the throne from his father Ahab, and unfortunately, he also inherited his father's rebellious spirit. The Bible tells us he did evil in the sight of the Lord, walking in the way of his father and mother, and leading Israel into sin by worshipping Baal. His reign began with a major political setback. After his father's death, Moab, a nation that had been paying a heavy tribute to Israel, rebelled. This was a significant blow to Israel's power and economy. But Ahaziah's biggest test was yet to come. The pivotal moment of his story is a personal accident. Ahaziah fell through the lattice of his upper room in Samaria and was seriously injured. In his desperation, what did he do? Did he turn to the God of Israel for help? No. Instead, he sent messengers to inquire of Baal-zebub, the god of Ekron, a Philistine city, to see if he would recover. This act was a direct rejection of God. God responded by sending the prophet Elijah to intercept Ahaziah's messengers. Elijah's message was sharp and clear. Is it because there is no God in Israel that you are going to inquire of Baal-zebub, the god of Ekron? Elijah then delivered God's judgment. Because Ahaziah had sought a foreign idol instead of the one true God, he would not recover from his injury. He would surely die. When the messengers returned and reported this to Ahaziah, he knew immediately it was Elijah the Tishbite. In a display of defiance, Ahaziah sent a captain with 50 soldiers to arrest Elijah. But God protected his prophet. Fire came down from heaven and consumed the captain and his men. Ahaziah stubbornly sent another captain with another 50 men, and the same thing happened. Finally, a third captain was sent. This man, however, showed humility. He went up to Elijah, fell on his knees, and pleaded for his life and the lives of his men. An angel of the Lord told Elijah to go with this man and not be afraid. So Elijah went to King Ahaziah and delivered the Lord's message in person. Because you have sent to inquire of Baal-zebub and not the Lord, you will die. And just as the prophet said, Ahaziah died, having reigned for only about 2 years. So, what's the key takeaway from Ahaziah's story? It's a powerful reminder about where we place our trust. In times of crisis, do we turn to our own solutions or worldly gods for answers? Or do we turn to the living God? Ahaziah had every opportunity to seek the Lord, but he chose idolatry and rebellion, and it led to his downfall. His story serves as a stark warning about the consequences of forsaking God. Thanks for watching. Join us next time as we explore the story of that other king we mentioned, Ahaziah, king of Judah. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you won't miss it. See you then. Hello and welcome to our channel. Today, we're diving into the Bible to uncover the story of a significant but sometimes overlooked figure, Ahijah the priest. Now, it's easy to get him mixed up with another important person, Ahijah the prophet from Shiloh, but they are two different individuals. We'll talk about the prophet in our next video, so make sure you stick around for that. Today, our focus is solely on Ahijah the priest. So, who was this priest named Ahijah? His story is found in the book of 1 Samuel, chapter 14. He was the son of Ahitub, who was the brother of Ichabod. This lineage is incredibly important because it traces him back to the priestly line of Eli. If you remember the story of Eli, you know his family was prophesied to face hardship. Yet here is his great-grandson, Ahijah serving as a priest for Israel's first king, Saul. We encounter Ahijah during a critical moment in Israel's history. King Saul and his army are in a tense standoff with the Philistines. The situation looks dire. Saul's army is small, poorly equipped, and morale is low. In this high-stakes environment, Ahijah is present with the Ark of the Covenant. Or at least he's wearing the priestly ephod, which was used to seek God's guidance. In 1 Samuel 14 verse 18, Saul commands Ahijah, "Bring the Ark of God here." This shows Ahijah's role was central to the king's decision-making process. Saul wanted to inquire of the Lord whether to advance against the Philistines. However, in a moment of impatience, before Ahijah can even get an answer from God, Saul rushes into battle, fueled by the news of his son Jonathan's surprise attack. This moment reveals a lot about King Saul's character. But it also highlights the function of the priest in ancient Israel to be the bridge between the people and God, seeking divine will. Especially in times of war and uncertainty, though his appearance in the biblical narrative is brief. Ahijah the priest serves as a powerful reminder of the importance of seeking God's counsel. His presence alongside King Saul underscores the ideal relationship between the monarchy and the priesthood. Even if Saul himself often failed to live up to it, that's a quick look at Ahijah the priest. He may not have a lot of verses dedicated to him, but his role during a pivotal time for Israel is undeniable. Thanks for watching. Join us next time as we explore the life and prophecies of the other key figure, Ahijah the prophet. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you won't miss it. See you then. Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today, we're diving into the story of a fascinating but sometimes overlooked figure from the Old Testament, Ahijah the prophet. Have you ever heard of him? If not, you're in for a treat, because his story is filled with drama, prophecy, and some major turning points in the history of Israel. Ahijah was a prophet from Shiloh who lived during the reign of King Solomon and his son, Rehoboam. His most famous act is probably one of the most dramatic object lessons in the entire Bible. Imagine this: Jeroboam, one of Solomon's officials, is walking along a road when Ahijah meets him. Ahijah is wearing a brand new cloak. Suddenly, he grabs his own new cloak and tears it into 12 pieces. He then tells Jeroboam to take 10 of the pieces for himself. Why? Ahijah delivers a powerful prophecy directly from God. He explains that because King Solomon had turned away from God and followed other idols, God was going to tear the kingdom away from his son. However, for the sake of David, God would leave one tribe for Solomon's heir to rule. But the other 10 tribes, God was giving them to Jeroboam to be their king. This single act set the stage for the division of Israel into 2 separate kingdoms, Judah in the south and Israel in the north. But Ahijah's story doesn't end there. Years later, after Jeroboam has become king and has led the northern kingdom into idolatry himself, his own son falls sick. Desperate, Jeroboam sends his wife in disguise to see the now elderly and blind Ahijah to ask if their son will recover. Even though he's blind, Ahijah, through God's revelation, immediately recognizes her. He delivers another devastating prophecy. He tells her that because Jeroboam has done more evil than all who were before him, his entire family line will be cut off. And as for the sick child, Ahijah tells her that the moment she steps back into her city, the boy will die. He was the only one in Jeroboam's house in whom some good was found, so God was taking him away from the evil to come. Everything happened just as Ahijah prophesied. Ahijah's life shows us the incredible power and weight of a prophet's words. He was a direct messenger for God, announcing both the rise and fall of kings. His story is a stark reminder of the consequences of obedience and disobedience. Thanks for joining me to explore the life of Ahijah the prophet. If you found this interesting, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Join us next time as we look into the story of Ahijah in the Bible. See you then.
Rain, rain, rain on me, Lord, rain, rain on me, Lord, rain, rain.
Hello and welcome back to our series where we explore key figures in the Bible. Today, we're diving into the story of a man whose loyalty and timely intervention saved one of Israel's greatest prophets. His name is Ahikam. So, who was Ahikam? His name first appears in the book of 2 Kings. During the reign of the righteous King Josiah, Ahikam was the son of Shaphan, who was the king's scribe, a very influential position. This means Ahikam came from a prominent family that was close to the heart of Judah's political and religious life. When the lost book of the law was discovered in the temple, King Josiah sent a delegation, including Ahikam, to inquire of the Lord through the prophetess Huldah. This shows Ahikam was a trusted official, involved in one of the most significant spiritual revivals in Judah's history. But Ahikam's most pivotal moment comes later, in the book of Jeremiah. The political climate had shifted dramatically after King Josiah's death. His successors turned away from God, and the nation was on a collision course with Babylon. The prophet Jeremiah was tasked with delivering a very unpopular message: surrender to the Babylonians or face destruction. This message was seen as treasonous by the priests and prophets at the temple. In Jeremiah chapter 26, we read a dramatic scene. Jeremiah preaches in the temple court, and the leaders are enraged. They seize him, declaring, "You must die." They accused him of prophesying against Jerusalem and the temple. The situation was dire. A mob was ready to execute him on the spot. It looked like the end for Jeremiah. But then, a powerful figure stepped forward. The Bible tells us, the hand of Ahikam the son of Shaphan was with Jeremiah, so that he was not given into the hand of the people to be put to death. Ahikam used his influence and authority to protect Jeremiah. He stood against the angry crowd and the corrupt leadership, saving the prophet's life. We don't know exactly what he said or did, but his intervention was decisive. He became a shield for God's messenger at a critical moment. This act of courage had lasting implications. Ahikam's son, Gedaliah, would later be appointed by the Babylonians as the governor of Judah after the fall of Jerusalem. It seems the Babylonians recognized the wisdom and integrity of this family, though Gedaliah's rule ended tragically. The story of Ahikam reminds us that one person's courage can change the course of history, protecting God's work and his servants. Ahikam is a powerful example of using one's position not for personal gain, but for righteousness and justice. That's all for our look at Ahikam. He may not be the most famous name, but his impact was immense. Thanks for watching. Join us next time as we explore another key figure, Ahimelech, son of Zadok. See you then. Welcome back to our biblical character series. Today, we're diving into the story of a lesser-known but significant figure, Ahimelech the Hittite. Who was he, and why is he mentioned in the Bible? Let's find out. Ahimelech appears in the first book of Samuel, specifically during a very tense period in David's life. At this time, David is on the run from a jealous and vengeful King Saul. David has gathered a band of loyal followers, but they are constantly moving, seeking refuge and avoiding Saul's army. In chapter 26 of 1 Samuel, we find David and his men near the hill of Hachilah, across from Jeshimon. Saul and his 3,000 elite soldiers are camped nearby, determined to capture David. Under the cover of night, David sees an opportunity. He asks his most trusted men a daring question: who will go down with me to Saul's camp? 2 men volunteer. One is Abishai, the son of Zeruiah and brother of Joab. The other is Ahimelech the Hittite. The fact that Ahimelech is named alongside Abishai, a key figure in David's inner circle, tells us something important. It shows he was a trusted and courageous warrior, respected enough to be considered for such a dangerous mission. This mention is also significant because Ahimelech was a Hittite. The Hittites were a non-Israelite people, and his presence among David's most loyal followers demonstrates David's ability to lead and inspire loyalty from people of diverse backgrounds. It highlights that David's camp was a place where skill and faithfulness were valued above ethnicity or origin. Although David ultimately chooses Abishai to accompany him on the secret mission to take Saul's spear and water jug, Ahimelech's readiness to risk his life for David is a testament to his character. He stands as a symbol of the loyal, non-Israelite warriors who supported David and played a crucial role in his eventual rise to the throne. His brief appearance paints a picture of bravery and unwavering allegiance in a time of great uncertainty. So, while his name only appears once, Ahimelech the Hittite represents the unsung heroes in David's story, brave individuals whose loyalty helped shape the future of Israel. Thanks for watching. We hope this short exploration has shed some light on this intriguing biblical character. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more. Join us next time as we explore a different Ahimelech, the relative of Abiathar, and uncover his role in the Bible. See you then. Hello and welcome back to our channel where we explore key figures and stories from the Bible. Today, we're diving into the relationship between two important priests, Ahimelech and his relative, Abiathar. Who were they, and why does their connection matter? Let's find out. First, let's set the scene. We find Ahimelech in the book of 1 Samuel, serving as the high priest at Nob during the reign of King Saul. He was a direct descendant of Eli, from the priestly line of Ithamar. His full title was Ahimelech, son of Ahitub. Now, where does Abiathar fit in? Abiathar was one of Ahimelech's sons. This makes Ahimelech the father of Abiathar. Their story takes a dramatic and tragic turn when David, fleeing from a jealous King Saul, arrives at Nob. David, desperate for supplies, asks Ahimelech for food and a weapon. Ahimelech, acting in good faith and perhaps unaware of the deep rift between Saul and David, helps him. He gives David the consecrated bread, known as the showbread, and the sword of Goliath, which had been kept at the sanctuary. Unfortunately, a man named Doeg the Edomite, one of Saul's chief herdsmen, witnessed this entire exchange. He reported back to King Saul, painting Ahimelech as a traitor who was aiding Saul's enemy. Enraged, Saul summoned Ahimelech and all the priests of Nob. Despite Ahimelech's plea of innocence, explaining he had no idea David was on the run, Saul was merciless. Saul ordered his guards to execute the priests, but they refused to harm the Lord's anointed. So, Saul commanded Doeg the Edomite to do it. Doeg carried out the horrific order, slaughtering Ahimelech and 84 other priests. The entire town of Nob was put to the sword. This is where Abiathar's role becomes crucial. He was the sole son of Ahimelech to escape the massacre. He fled and found David, bringing with him the ephod, a sacred priestly garment used for seeking God's guidance. Abiathar reported the tragedy to David, who took responsibility for the events that led to the death of Abiathar's family. From that moment on, Abiathar became David's priest, serving him faithfully throughout his flight from Saul and well into his reign as king. He became one of two high priests, alongside Zadok. So, to summarize the keyword Ahimelech, relative of Abiathar, Ahimelech was Abiathar's father. Their story is a powerful reminder of loyalty, tragedy, and the complex politics of ancient Israel. It highlights the brutal nature of Saul's paranoia and marks a significant shift in the priesthood, with Abiathar carrying on his father's legacy under the protection of the future king, David. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. If you found this helpful, be sure to like and subscribe for more biblical explorations. See you next time as we look into another key figure, Ahimelech, son of Ahitub. Have you ever heard of Ahimelech, son of Ahitub? His story is a really powerful and tragic one, tucked away in the first book of Samuel. Let's dive into it. Ahimelech was the high priest at Nob, a town of priests just north of Jerusalem. This was during a very tense time when King Saul was growing increasingly paranoid and jealous of David, the young shepherd boy who had famously defeated Goliath. One day, David, fleeing from Saul's wrath, arrived at Nob. He was desperate and on the run. He went to Ahimelech and asked for food and a weapon. He told the priest he was on a secret mission for the king, which wasn't entirely true, but he needed help. Ahimelech, trusting David and likely unaware of the full extent of Saul's anger, gave him the consecrated bread, the holy showbread that was normally reserved for priests. He also gave David the very sword of Goliath, which had been kept there as a trophy. It was an act of compassion for someone he believed was a loyal servant of the king. Unfortunately, this act of kindness was witnessed by one of Saul's officials, a man named Doeg the Edomite. Doeg immediately went and told King Saul what had happened. Consumed by rage and paranoia, Saul saw Ahimelech's actions as treason. He summoned Ahimelech and all the priests of Nob to his court. Ahimelech tried to defend himself, explaining that he always believed David was Saul's most faithful servant and son-in-law. He had no idea David was an enemy of the king, but Saul wouldn't listen to reason. His heart was hardened. He ordered his guards to execute the priests. When his own Israelite guards refused to carry out such a horrific order to strike down the priests of the Lord, Saul turned to Doeg the Edomite. Doeg, who had started this whole tragedy, had no such hesitation. He fell upon the priests, and on that day, he killed 85 of them, including Ahimelech. Saul's vengeance didn't stop there. He went on to destroy the entire town of Nob, its men, women, children, and livestock. Only one person escaped, Abiathar, one of Ahimelech's sons. He fled and found David, telling him the devastating news. David was heartbroken. Taking responsibility for the massacre, he told Abiathar, "I knew that day, when Doeg the Edomite was there, that he would surely tell Saul, 'I have caused the death of every person in your father's house.'" Ahimelech's story is a stark reminder of the devastating consequences of jealousy, fear, and unchecked power. He was an innocent man, a faithful priest who simply tried to help someone in need, and he paid the ultimate price for his compassion. It is a sobering tale of injustice but also highlights the integrity of a man caught in a terrible conflict. Thanks for watching. We'll explore another keyword from the Bible in our next video. See you next time on Keyword Ahinoam in the Bible. Hello everyone, and welcome back to our channel where we explore key figures and terms from the Bible. Today, we're focusing on a name that appears in a context of priestly leadership, Ahimelech, son of Zadok. This can be a bit confusing because there are a few different individuals named Ahimelech in the scriptures, so let's clarify who this specific person is. We find Ahimelech, son of Zadok, mentioned in the lists of King David's officials. For instance, in 2 Samuel chapter 8 verse 17, the text says, "Zadok the son of Ahitub and Ahimelech the son of Abiathar were priests." Now, hold on, you might be thinking, that says he's the son of Abiathar, not Zadok. This is where things get interesting and require a closer look. Many Bible scholars believe there might be a scribal error in this verse. When you compare it with other parallel passages, like in 1 Chronicles chapter 18 verse 16, it reads, "Zadok the son of Ahitub and Abimelech the son of Abiathar were priests." Wait, now the name is Abimelech. And in 1 Chronicles chapter 24 verse 3, it says, "David, with Zadok of the sons of Eleazar, and Ahimelech of the sons of Ithamar, divided them according to the duties of their service." This Ahimelech is identified as a descendant of Ithamar, while Zadok is from Eleazar's line. So, where does Ahimelech, son of Zadok, come from? The most direct reference is in 1 Chronicles 24, where we see the priestly divisions being organized. In verse 31 of that chapter, it lists the heads of the Levitical families, and it mentions Ahimelech in the context of the descendants of Ithamar, who served alongside the descendants of Eleazar, led by Zadok. A common scholarly view suggests that the name of Abiathar's son was actually Ahimelech, and he served alongside Zadok. Another possibility is that the text in 2 Samuel 8 originally read Zadok and Abiathar the son of Ahimelech were priests, which would align with the story of David fleeing from Saul. However, if we take the text as it is, another interpretation is that Zadok had a son named Ahimelech who would eventually serve as a priest, perhaps succeeding his father. This Ahimelech would have been a contemporary of King Solomon, as his brother Azariah is mentioned as a priest during Solomon's reign. This shows us how careful reading and cross-referencing different passages can bring more depth to our understanding. The role of these priests was vital. They were the spiritual leaders, intermediaries between God and the people, and they oversaw the worship at the tabernacle and later the temple. Zadok and his descendants, including potentially this Ahimelech, played a crucial role in the history of Israel's priesthood. Thanks for joining me today to untangle this interesting biblical detail. It's a great reminder that every name and every verse can hold a story worth exploring. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into the scriptures. See you next time when we discuss another keyword, Ahimelech, Hittite officer in the Bible. Hello and welcome back to our series, Keyword in the Bible. Today, we're exploring a name that appears a few times in the Old Testament, belonging to two different women, Ahinoam. It has a beautiful Hebrew name that means brother of pleasantness, or my brother is delight. The first Ahinoam we meet is in the book of 1 Samuel. She is the daughter of a man named Ahimaaz and becomes the first wife of King Saul. As the queen of Israel, her life would have been at the center of royal court politics and family dynamics. However, the Bible doesn't give us many details about her personal story or her relationship with Saul. She is mentioned as the mother of Saul's sons, Jonathan, Ishvi, Malchishua, and Abinadab, and his two daughters, Merab and Michal. Her position as queen and mother to the heir apparent, Jonathan, placed her in a significant, though quietly documented, role in Israel's early monarchy. The second, and perhaps more well-known, Ahinoam is from Yisrael. She became one of King David's wives during the time he was on the run from King Saul. We first read about her in 1 Samuel chapter 25. After the death of Nabal, David married his widow, Abigail. And the text says he also took Ahinoam of Israel as a wife. This Ahinoam was with David through many of his trials and tribulations. She experienced the hardship of being captured by the Amalekites in Ziklag along with David's other wife, Abigail, and all their children. Imagine the terror and uncertainty they must have felt. But David, trusting in God, pursued the raiders and rescued everyone, including Ahinoam. This event, described in 1 Samuel chapter 30, shows her resilience and the dangers she faced by David's side. Later, when David was crowned king in Hebron, Ahinoam was there with him. She gave birth to David's firstborn son, Amnon. As the mother of the king's eldest son, she held a prominent position in the royal family. Her story is intertwined with David's rise to power, from a fugitive to the king of Judah and eventually all of Israel. So, when we see the name Ahinoam in the Bible, we are reminded of two different women connected to Israel's first two kings. One was the queen of a troubled king, Saul, and the other was a steadfast companion to David during his most challenging years, who later became the mother of his firstborn son. Both women named Ahinoam played their part in the grand narrative of Israel's history. Thank you for joining us to explore the keyword Ahinoam. We hope this has given you a deeper appreciation for these biblical figures. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next video. We'll see you next time as we dive into another keyword Ahio in the Bible. Hello and welcome to our channel. Today, we're diving into the Bible to explore the name Ahio. It might not be as famous as David or Moses, but it appears a few times and has a story to tell. So, who was Ahio? Let's find out. The name Ahio, which in Hebrew means brotherly or his brother, is mentioned in a few different contexts in the Old Testament. First, we encounter an Ahio in the book of 1 Chronicles, chapter 8. He is listed as a son of Beriah, a descendant of the tribe of Benjamin. This Ahio was part of a family that lived in Jerusalem and was known for being a head of a father's house. But perhaps the most well-known story involving an Ahio is found in both 2 Samuel chapter 6 and 1 Chronicles chapter 13. This is the dramatic account of King David bringing the Ark of the Covenant to Jerusalem. The Ark had been in the house of a man named Abinadab for 20 years. When David decided to move it, he placed it on a new cart, and it was guided by Abinadab's two sons, Uzzah and Ahio. The Bible tells us that Ahio walked in front of the Ark, while Uzzah walked beside it. Imagine the scene, a grand procession with David and all of Israel celebrating with all their might, with music, singing, and dancing. Ahio is leading the way, part of this incredible, historic moment. His role was to guide the cart, to be at the forefront of this sacred journey. However, the journey takes a tragic turn. When they reached the threshing floor of Nacon, the oxen stumbled, and Uzzah reached out to steady the ark. For this act, he was struck down. This event was so shocking that David became afraid and decided to leave the ark at the house of Obed-Edom for 3 months. Ahio witnessed all of this. We don't hear about him again after this incident, but he was a central figure in this powerful and cautionary tale about reverence and the holiness of God. There's one more mention of an Ahio, also in 1 Chronicles, this time in chapter 9. He is listed as a son of Jeiel, the founder of Gibeon. This tells us the name was not unique to one person, but was used among the ancient Israelites. So, from a family leader in Benjamin to a guide for the Ark of the Covenant, the name Ahio represents different individuals who played their parts in the biblical narrative. Though their stories are brief, they are woven into the rich tapestry of Israel's history. Thank you for joining us to explore the keyword Ahio. We hope this has been insightful. See you next time on Keyword Ahithophel in the Bible. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss it. Thanks for watching. Hello everyone. And welcome back to our Biblical Keyword series. Today, we're exploring a name that appears a few times in the Old Testament, but is easy to overlook, Ahio. What does this name mean, and who were the men who carried it? Let's dive in. The name Ahio is Hebrew and it means brotherly or my brother is Yahweh. It's a name that signifies a close, familial relationship, possibly even a covenant bond with God. We find this name associated with three different individuals in the biblical narrative. First, we meet an Ahio in the book of 1 Chronicles, chapter 8. He is listed as one of the sons of Beriah, a descendant of Benjamin. This Ahio was part of a prominent family that settled in Ajalon and was known for driving out the inhabitants of Gath. His mention here helps establish the genealogical lines of the tribe of Benjamin, which played a significant role in Israel's history. The second and perhaps most well-known Ahio appears in the story of the Ark of the Covenant. In 2 Samuel chapter 6 and 1 Chronicles chapter 13, we read about David's attempt to bring the Ark to Jerusalem. The Ark had been at the house of Abinadab in Kiriath-Jearim for a long time. Abinadab's two sons, Uzzah and Ahio, were tasked with guiding the new cart that carried the Ark. The Bible specifically says Ahio walked in front of the Ark. While his brother Uzzah tragically died for touching the Ark, Ahio's role was to lead the procession. His story is part of a crucial lesson about reverence and the proper way to approach God's holiness. It reminds us that good intentions must be combined with obedience to God's specific commands. Finally, there's a third Ahio mentioned, again in 1 Chronicles, this time in chapter 9. He is listed as a son of Jeiel, the father of Gibeon. This Ahio was also a Benjamite and part of the lineage that lived in Jerusalem after the exile. His family is notable because it connects to the ancestry of King Saul, Israel's first king. So, this Ahio is part of a very important family tree in the history of Israel's monarchy. So, while the name Ahio might not be as famous as David or Moses, these three men each played a part in the unfolding story of God's people, from genealogical records that preserve Israel's heritage to a dramatic event involving the Ark of the Covenant. The name Ahio reminds us of the importance of family, brotherhood, and the careful reverence due to God. Each mention, though brief, adds another layer to the rich tapestry of the biblical text. Thanks for joining me to explore the keyword Ahio. I hope this has given you a deeper appreciation for the details in God's Word. Join me next time as we look into another fascinating figure, Ahithophel. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you won't miss it. See you then. Have you ever heard of Ahithophel? It's a name that might not be as well known as David or Solomon, but his story in the Bible is a powerful lesson about wisdom, loyalty, and betrayal. Let's dive into who Ahithophel was. Ahithophel was one of King David's most trusted counselors. His name literally means brother of foolishness, which is ironic because his advice was considered so incredibly wise that the Bible says in 2 Samuel chapter 16 verse 23, the counsel of Ahithophel, which he counseled in those days, was as if a man had inquired at the oracle of God. Imagine that. His guidance was seen as divine wisdom itself. For years, he stood by David's side, helping him navigate the complexities of ruling a kingdom. But everything changed during Absalom's rebellion. Absalom, David's own son, tried to steal the throne, and in a shocking turn of events, Ahithophel betrayed David and joined Absalom's cause. Why would he do this? Well, many scholars believe Ahithophel was the grandfather of Bathsheba, the woman David had an affair with before having her husband, Uriah, killed. If this is true, Ahithophel's betrayal wasn't just a political move, it was personal, a deeply rooted act of revenge for the shame and tragedy David brought upon his family. When Ahithophel joined Absalom, he gave him two pieces of advice. First, he told Absalom to publicly take over his father's concubines, which would make the break with David irreversible in the eyes of all Israel. Absalom followed this advice. Then, Ahithophel gave a brilliant military strategy. He proposed to take 12,000 men and pursue David that very night. While David and his followers were weary and weak, he planned to strike down only the king. And the people would then flock to Absalom. This was a devastatingly effective plan that would have almost certainly succeeded. But another one of David's counselors, Hushai, who was secretly a spy for David, convinced Absalom to ignore Ahithophel's advice. Hushai proposed a grander, but much slower plan to gather a massive army. Absalom, swayed by pride, chose Hushai's counsel over Ahithophel's. When Ahithophel saw that his advice was not followed, he knew Absalom's rebellion was doomed to fail. He calmly went home, put his household in order, and then took his own life. It is a tragic end to a man whose great wisdom was ultimately corrupted by bitterness and betrayal. His story is a stark reminder that even the greatest gifts can lead to ruin without a heart that is right. What can we learn from Ahithophel? His life shows us the destructive power of unforgiveness, and the danger of letting our wisdom serve our own bitter agendas instead of a higher purpose. It's a powerful narrative about the consequences of our choices. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into a key figure from the Bible. I hope you found it insightful. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories like this. See you next time on Keyword Ahitub, father of Zadok. Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel. Today, we're diving into the Bible to uncover the story behind a key figure in the priestly line, Ahitub, the father of Zadok. Now, if you've been following along, you might remember we've talked about another Ahitub before, the son of Phinehas. It's really important to distinguish between these two individuals, as they lived in different periods and played distinct roles in Israel's history. The Ahitub we're focusing on today is mentioned in the genealogy of Zadok, who was a very prominent high priest during the time of King David and King Solomon. You can find this connection in places like 1 Chronicles chapter 6 verse 8. The verse reads, "And Ahitub begot Zadok, and Zadok begot Ahimaaz." This lineage is crucial because it traces the high priestly line all the way back to Aaron, Moses' brother. It establishes the legitimacy of Zadok and his descendants as the rightful priests serving in the temple. So, who was this Ahitub? While the Bible doesn't give us a lot of detailed stories about his personal life, his position in this genealogy is what makes him so significant. He served as a vital link, a bridge connecting the past priestly heritage to the future. His son, Zadok, would go on to become one of the most faithful and influential high priests in Israel's history. Zadok's loyalty to David, especially during Absalom's rebellion, secured his family's priestly role for generations to come. Therefore, when we see the name Ahitub, father of Zadok, we should think of him as the patriarch of this incredibly important priestly family. He is the father of the man who co-founded a priestly dynasty that served God and the people of Israel for centuries. His legacy isn't found in heroic battles or dramatic prophecies, but in the faithful continuation of the sacred line God had established. He represents the quiet, steady faithfulness required to pass down a spiritual heritage from one generation to the next. Understanding Ahitub's place helps us appreciate the bigger picture of God's plan throughout the Old Testament. It shows how God carefully preserved the priesthood, ensuring that there would always be mediators to stand between him and his people. It's a testament to God's faithfulness and his meticulously organized plan for worship and redemption. Thanks for joining me today to explore the story of Ahitub, the father of Zadok. I hope this helps clarify his role and importance in the biblical narrative. Be sure to hit that like button if you learned something new, and subscribe so you don't miss our next video. We'll be looking at another key figure soon. See you next time when we explore the keyword Ahitub, son of Phinehas in the Bible. Thanks for watching. Hello and welcome back to our series where we explore keywords and figures in the Bible. Today, we're diving into the story of a man named Ahitub, specifically Ahitub, son of Phinehas. Now, if you're a Bible reader, you might notice the name Ahadib pops up a few times, and it can get a little confusing. There are at least two prominent figures named Ahadib, so it's important to distinguish them. The Ahadib we're focusing on is the grandson of the high priest Eli. Let's set the scene. In the book of 1 Samuel, the spiritual state of Israel was at a low point. The high priest Eli was old, and his sons, Hophni and Phinehas, were corrupt priests who were disrespecting God's offerings. Our Ahadib was the son of this Phinehas. His story is tied to a very tragic event in Israel's history. During a battle with the Philistines, the Israelites, in a moment of desperation and superstition, decided to bring the Ark of the Covenant into their camp, thinking it would guarantee them victory. Hophni and Phinehas, Eli's sons, accompanied the Ark, but God was not with them. Israel suffered a devastating defeat. The Bible tells us in 1 Samuel chapter 4 that 30,000 Israelite foot soldiers fell, and tragically, both Hophni and Phinehas were killed. The Ark of God was captured by the Philistines. This was a catastrophic blow to the nation. Back in Shiloh, Eli was anxiously waiting for news. When a messenger arrived and told him what had happened, that his sons were dead and the ark was captured, Eli fell backward from his chair, broke his neck, and died. The tragedy compounds. At that very moment, Phinehas's wife Ahadib's mother was pregnant and about to give birth. When she heard the news about the ark and the death of her father-in-law and husband, she went into labor. As she was dying, she named her newborn son Ichabod, which means the glory has departed from Israel, because the ark of God had been captured. Now, where does Ahadib fit into all of this? Ahadib was Ichabod's older brother. The Bible mentions him in 1 Samuel 14-3 as Ahadib, son of Phinehas, the son of Eli, the Lord's priest in Shiloh. This verse identifies him as the brother of Ichabod. Although his father Phinehas was corrupt, the priestly line continued through Ahadib. He would go on to have a son named Ahimelech, who became the high priest at Nob during the time of King Saul and David. Ahimelech is the priest who famously helped David when he was fleeing from Saul, giving him the consecrated bread and Goliath's sword. So, Ahadib serves as a crucial link, bridging the gap between the priesthood of his grandfather Eli and the priestly line that would serve in the days of King David. His story, though brief, is a somber reminder of a dark time for Israel, but also a testament to the continuation of God's covenant promises through the priestly lineage. Thanks for joining us for this look into the life of Ahadib, son of Phinehas. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into the Bible. See you next time on Keyword Amos in the Bible. Hello and welcome to Keyword in the Bible. Today, we're diving into a fascinating question. Is the Pharaoh Amos mentioned in the Bible? This is a topic that has sparked a lot of debate among historians and biblical scholars. So, who was Amos? Amos I was an ancient Egyptian pharaoh, the founder of the 18th dynasty. His reign is a huge turning point in Egyptian history because he successfully expelled the Hyksos, a group of foreign rulers who had controlled Lower Egypt for over a century. This victory reunified Egypt and kicked off the New Kingdom, a period of incredible power and prosperity. Now, where does the Bible come into this? The book of Exodus tells the story of the Israelites' enslavement in Egypt and their eventual liberation led by Moses. Exodus chapter 1, verse 8 says, "Then a new king, who did not know about Joseph, came to power in Egypt." Some scholars have proposed that this new king could be Amos. The theory goes like this: the Hyksos, being foreigners themselves, might have been more favorable to other foreign groups like the Israelites who settled in Egypt during Joseph's time. When Amos overthrew the Hyksos, his new dynasty might have viewed all foreign settlers with suspicion, including the Israelites. This could explain the shift from the friendly relations of Joseph's era to the harsh slavery described in Exodus. This new king, focused on consolidating his power and securing Egypt from foreign influence, would have had a motive to oppress the growing Israelite population. However, it's really important to state that this is just one of many theories. The Bible doesn't name the Pharaoh of the oppression or the Pharaoh of the Exodus. Other candidates for the Pharaoh of the oppression include Thutmose III or Ramesses II. The timeline of ancient Egypt and the timeline of the biblical narrative are very difficult to allege and perfectly, and there's no direct archaeological evidence, like an inscription, that explicitly names Amos in connection with the Israelites. So, while the idea of Ahmose as the new king, who did not know Joseph, is a compelling possibility that fits the historical context in some ways. It remains a theory, not a proven fact. It highlights the exciting but challenging work of connecting the biblical text with ancient history. What we do know is that Ahmose was a pivotal figure who reshaped Egypt, and the story of Exodus describes a major turning point for the people of Israel. The potential link between them makes for a fascinating historical puzzle. Thanks for joining us for this exploration. See you next time on Keyword in the Bible. Hey everyone, welcome back to our series where we explore keywords in the Bible. Today, we're diving into a really interesting one, the word I. Now, I know what you might be thinking with all the buzz around artificial intelligence, but the I we're talking about today is spelled I, and it's actually the name of an ancient city mentioned in the Old Testament. The name I in Hebrew means ruin or heap of stones, which is a pretty fascinating and almost prophetic name, given its history. The story of Ai is most famously found in the book of Joshua, chapters 7 and 8. It is a powerful tale that happens right after the Israelites' incredible victory at Jericho. After Jericho, Joshua sends spies to Ai, a smaller and seemingly weaker city. The spies come back with a confident report, suggesting that only a small force of 2,000 or 3,000 men would be needed to conquer it. So, Joshua sends about 3,000 soldiers. But something completely unexpected happens. They are defeated. The Israelites are chased away by the men of Ai, and about 36 of them are lost. This defeat is a huge shock to the Israelites. Their morale plummets, and Joshua is devastated. He goes before the Lord and asks why this happened. Especially after the miraculous victory at Jericho, God's response is direct and reveals a crucial lesson. He tells Joshua that Israel has sinned. Someone had violated the command God gave them about the plunder from Jericho. They were told not to take any of the devoted things. But someone had disobeyed and hidden some for themselves. This sin in the camp had broken their covenant with God and removed his blessing and protection. God explains that until the sin is dealt with and removed from the community, they will not be able to stand against their enemies. So, the next day, a man named Achan is identified as the one who sinned. He confesses to taking a beautiful robe, some silver, and a bar of gold, and burying them in his tent. After the community deals with this sin, God's favor is restored. God then gives Joshua a new, detailed strategy to capture Ai. This time, it involves a much larger force and a clever ambush. Joshua follows God's plan exactly. He sets up an ambush behind the city and then leads the main army to pretend to retreat, just like they did before. The king of Ai and his army, full of confidence from their previous victory, rush out to chase the Israelites, leaving the city completely unprotected. At the perfect moment, the ambush is sprung. The hidden Israelite soldiers rush into the empty city and set it on fire. The army of Ai is trapped between the two Israelite forces and is completely defeated. The city of Ai is captured and, true to its name, becomes a permanent heap of stones. The story of Ai teaches us powerful lessons about obedience, the consequences of sin within a community, and the importance of seeking God's guidance instead of relying on our own strength or past successes. It's a dramatic reminder that our relationship with God is the true source of our strength. Thanks for joining us for this look at the keyword I. We hope it's given you something new to think about. See you next time, when we'll be exploring the keyword Ajalon in the Bible. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Have you ever heard of the name Ajalon in the Bible? It's a fascinating place with a rich history that shows up in several key moments. The name itself means place of the deer or deer field, painting a picture of a beautiful, natural landscape. Ajalon first appears in the book of Joshua. This is where one of the most famous miracles in the Old Testament takes place. During a major battle against the Amorite kings, Joshua prays for more daylight to secure victory. He famously commands, "Sun, stand still over Gibeon, and you, moon, over the valley of Ajalon." And incredibly, the sun and moon stood still, allowing the Israelites to win the battle. This event forever marks Ajalon as a place of divine intervention and miraculous power. But the story of Ajalon doesn't end there. It was a significant city strategically located on the border between the tribes of Dan and Benjamin. Later, it became a Levitical city, a place set aside for the Levites who served God in the tabernacle and temple. This shows its importance not just militarily, but also spiritually. Throughout its history, Ajalon was often a point of conflict. The Philistines captured it from King Ahaz of Judah, and later, King Rehoboam fortified it as a defense for Jerusalem. This shows just how vital its location was for controlling the region and protecting the capital. From a miraculous battleground to a strategic fortress and a holy city for Levites, Ajalon is woven into the fabric of Israel's history. Each mention reminds us of God's power, the importance of strategic planning, and the ongoing spiritual life of the nation. It's more than just a name on a map, it's a place where history was made and faith was tested. The story of Ajalon encourages us to remember that God can intervene in our battles, and that places can hold deep spiritual significance. Thanks for watching. Join us next time as we explore the keyword albinus in the Bible. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more biblical insights.
What? What?